Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bitcoin News Weekly Live. I'm your host, Rob Wallace, and we've got an epic show ahead of you. Many things are happening around the world. It's very hard to keep track of it all, but that's why we are here, summing up all the news from the last week and looking forward, making sure that you are prepared for a crazy, crazy time ahead. And 2026, it's around the corner. It's the holiday week. Everybody's home. They're chilling. But no, we are on top of the news. We're making sure you know what is going on. Let's dive right in. In less than 30 days, silver has added roughly $1.3 trillion in nominal value. On Friday alone, we witnessed a massive 10% jump, a rare 4 to 5 sigma event that propelled silver past NVIDIA on Sunday night to become the world's second largest asset, with the market cap exceeding $4.65 trillion. Beyond the eye-popping move in a multi-trillion-dollar asset, we are witnessing the cracking of a decades-old narrative. The belief that the fiat experiment could run unabated and that the world would indefinitely accept pieces of paper for real-world goods is rapidly dissolving. Silver gave the world a massive warning on Friday. The status quo of the last 50 years, the petrodollar standard, is ending. The power players may try to hide it behind the headlines, but they are now openly vying for control using realpolitik. The return of the Monroe Doctrine. In the last 2 months, we watched the Trump administration pivot from bombing narco speedboats in the Caribbean to launching a full-scale embargo on Venezuela. Trump didn't campaign on a hot war in Latin America, but if you read the latest strategy papers coming out of the Pentagon, a new Monroe Doctrine is clearly in play. The haphazard plan that began in April with tariffs has crystallized into a subversive strategic decoupling from China and a pursuit of complete resource control of the Americas. If Washington intends to weaken China while shoring up its own hemisphere, it must sever the Middle Kingdom's access to its new favorite extraction point, Latin America. The metals war. China's domestic silver mining is declining, making their reliance on Latin American silver concentrate a critical vulnerability. They sense what Trump is up to and have been buying everything, from iron ore to oil to silver, in order to stockpile against the threat of a full-blown trade war. Meanwhile, the U.S. officially designated silver as a critical mineral in September. This was a formal recognition of silver's irreplaceable role in electronics, defense, and energy transition. That brings us back to Venezuela. The U.S. has already seized 2 Venezuelan oil tankers and is pursuing a third. The initial excuse of targeting sanctioned vessels is giving way to a new reality. Any Venezuelan ship may now be seized by force. Washington launched this embargo because for years, Caracas has been selling oil directly to China, bypassing the petrodollar system. Simultaneously, Beijing is preparing its own countermeasures, a plan to restrict silver exports starting in 2026. Even Elon Musk recently weighed in, tweeting his concern over silver prices. He knows that he needs the metal for Tesla's batteries, Starlink satellites, and SpaceX hardware. A monetary regime change. We are unraveling globalism in real time. Trade is bifurcating into access versus allies. We face a binary choice. Maintain the post-1971 USD reserve structure or devalue the currency against commodities to ensure we have the raw materials to actually build things in America again. We simply cannot do both. If we choose to build, a neutral reserve asset like gold or Bitcoin must replace US Treasuries as the primary global reserve. The market is already voting. Gold, silver, and Bitcoin are saying we choose building, reserve status be damned. This is a monetary regime change. The Austrian framework of scarcity, sound money, and real price discovery is exposing the fraud of the prevailing model. Silver is the old world stress test. Bitcoin is the new world one. As the system fever breaks, the question for every Bitcoiner remains. When the next fracture hits, do you want exposure through paper wrappers or do you want the thing itself? Welcome, everybody, to Bitcoin News Weekly. Today, I'm very glad to be joined by my main man, Kyle Huber. Kyle, how are we doing today?
Fantastic, Rob. We're watching the fiat system die in real time, and I'm just glad I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, so many people will just look at something like what happened over this last week and just be completely perplexed, have no idea why silver would just go up 160% in the last year. But when you look at what's going on between the fiat endgame, the decoupling from China, the resource wars, and just the new multipolar world that is establishing all around us, it makes a lot more sense. And that's why we're here, to try to break this stuff down, explain it, and make it a little simpler to explain. So, Kyle, who the heck are you? Introduce yourself to our audience and make sure they know what you do in Bitcoin.
Appreciate you, Rob. And I get a lot of value from consuming your guys' news. Yeah, I make Bitcoin content, host a podcast called We Are Satoshi. I'm currently making a documentary film. And most of what I talk about is not about price. I like to talk more about building grassroots medium of exchange, which you guys do as well. And yeah, just currently editing right now on my documentary. So this is a good little break. And it also gave me an excuse to look into why silver's price was moving a little bit, because as a longtime conspiracy theorist, class of, I would say 2011, maybe the Ron Paul and the Fed era, silver was huge during that time. There was the hype, the gold bugs and the silver hard metals people. They were right about some things. And now we're actually seeing that thing play out. So
yeah, I mean, philosophically, we are aligned. I agree. I'm same with you. Was in that class of 2011, Ron Paul and the Fed, silver bug, gold bug. I mean, that's actually how I first heard of Max Kaiser, was his campaign to buy silver, crash JP Morgan, right? That was his idea, that if enough people, that JP Morgan was so massively short silver, that if enough people just bought physical silver and demanded delivery, that it would crash one of the largest banks in the world. And actually we're seeing that. There's been some crazy things with JP Morgan and them being historically short silver and then flipping to long silver. So yeah, I mean, some crazy things are going on. But before we get into the headlines, tell us a little bit more about what you did in Bulgaria with this documentary film.
Yeah, so I started going to Bitcoin conferences about 2 years ago. I was one of these listening to podcasts, doing my 40 hours a week, consuming content all the time. And I had this urge inside of me that I wanted to do more. I wanted to participate in this revolution. And so when I had career change, long story short, I had some free time. I decided, hey, I know how to hold a camera. Why don't I try and go to some of these Bitcoin conferences? I saw a tweet from a YouTuber who was like, hey, I need a videographer for El Salvador. I'll pay for the trip if you bring the camera and come along and film. So that was my first Bitcoin event, was the halving party in El Salvador. Doors started opening. I ended up, the next Bitcoin conference I was at was in Sofia, Bulgaria, which basically led to me getting to know the Bulgarian community, specifically my co-producer and partner on the film, Ivan Makedonsky. So the two of us have been working hard on this film. We had the vision about a year ago and then went to Bulgaria for a month this summer, filmed, traveled all over the country, meeting the different Bitcoin builders, really trying to understand, how is Bitcoin changing people's lives? How is it being adopted at the grassroots level? And then I went back in October, filmed at the BTC Balkans conference, which was the uniting of all the different Balkan countries to come talk about Bitcoin, the different circular economies. So that's what I'm doing. The main goal of the film is really to connect with the people that are currently in the position that I was in just 2 years ago, which is, we're listening to podcasts. We're so passionate about Bitcoin, but we want to get in the game. And yeah, I just believe that building on Bitcoin is much more than writing code, stacking sats. There's so many different ways to do it. How can you bring your skill set to Bitcoin is what I'm most interested in. So thank you, Rob, for the platform to share a little bit about what I'm doing. And I'm excited to dig into some of the next topics.
Yeah, we know you're deep in the editing process with this film, but we are very excited to see it once it finally comes out, and we'll definitely help you share it once it is. All right, let's get right into today's topic. So what are we doing here? We are Bitcoin News Weekly Live. We break down the newsletter that comes out every single Monday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern, straight into your inbox, Bitcoin News Weekly. This week's title is Silver Just Did What Bitcoin Was Meant to Do. Subtitle, with silver up 160% year to date and Bitcoin stalling, is the market sniffing out a looming credit event or the end of the fiat experiment? So yes, we are here to break down the headlines, and with Kyle, let's dive right into our adoption section. So this first one is pretty cool. I had not seen this before. This came on our radar this week as he commented on one of our posts, checked out his profile, and there's this guy, Bitcoin Architect. He releases a new website visualizing the entire Bitcoin blockchain as tree rings. Each block appears as a transaction ring, and hovering reveals BTC values, making block composition intuitive to explore. So it might not make sense from reading it, but when you see it, it will. So he's got this website here, and you can explore the entire Bitcoin blockchain as tree rings. It grows out from the center, and each ring is, I think, thicker or thinner depending on the amount of transactions per block. But it's pretty crazy stuff, and I just love new ways to visualize the Bitcoin blockchain. And pretty cool stuff from this guy, Architect BTC. Did you see this before?
No, I didn't. I just saw it in the newsletter though, and I love it. I mean, mempool.space is a great way when I'm trying to explain Bitcoin to people. It's like what's actually happening at the base level is, transactions are coming into a block. Those blocks are then miners are then deciding which transactions based on how high the fee is going to go. So there's all these complexities to Bitcoin. Explaining it to people, I think visualizing it is super helpful. And this is awesome.
So transactions within blocks are plotted at log scale with a radial distribution based on BTC transaction size. Up to 2 blocks at a time can be visualized and compared. Interesting insights into blocks can be seen instantly. So yeah, you can compare blocks, see how they look next to each other. But I mean, Bitcoin is beautiful. There's so many different ways for you to visualize this data, this immense amount of data, this ledger that is open for the whole entire world to see. And yeah, just again, this is just another human being bringing their talents to Bitcoin and expressing it in a way only they can. So go check out this guy, Bitcoin Architect. Drawingbitcoin.com is the website. Lots of cool stuff over there. Nice. And so then hopping over into the coding world, Chain Code Labs launches the 2026 Boss Challenge, a 3-month program helping developers break into Bitcoin open source through guided foundations, partner programming, and real contribution paths. So if you are a Bitcoiner who's interested in working on Bitcoin code, Bitcoin is an open source protocol, of course, and anybody can contribute, but you need to know what you're doing. And so this is a way for you to learn. So this is a new challenge by Chain Code Labs, and it's the Boss Challenge, the open source. So you can take part in this. I think they're accepting applications right now. Many people don't know where do they start, what do they study first. So to address this, TabConf is participating in the Boss Challenge with Chain Code Labs. And so it's designed to support developers who want to begin contributing to Bitcoin in an open source structured way. So TabConf is the largest running Bitcoin developer conference. And by joining the Boss Challenge, you are helping to create more developers. And this is something that is very needed in Bitcoin. Chain Code Labs, I think, actually got a lot of heat this last year when it came to, of course, the op return debate. And but this seems like a real great grassroots efforts to get more people contributing to Bitcoin, because this is Bitcoin, I think, takes a certain amount of skills in terms of being a developer. And so we need people who are trained in the art of contributing to the Bitcoin project. And this is a great way to get started.
Yeah, to connect the two too, right? You've got the tree rings that are growing. A tree grows naturally over time. It's not that every single ring is the exact same. And that's goes to show we're living through the current development of the actual ring today. If the weather outside changes, if a fire comes, that ring could look very different. So if you're a developer, you can actually participate beyond just development. Though I was just having a conversation with my cousin. I was talking about Bitcoin with him. He opens up the Bitcoin Core repo on, or not repo, but just the GitHub. And he's like, hey, there's all these unsolved things with Bitcoin. Like, how can I participate? And he was actually thinking about ways to participate. So yeah, it's a take action, right? It's the people that are taking action. And I would also say, like, chances are you can actually make a huge difference. I met a guy named Francis Mars. He created Chain Duel, which is a video game. It's at a lot of Bitcoin conferences. And he started with a very similar thing. He went to the Madeira. It was in Madeira. I forget, some boot camp in Madeira. And that launched him into Now he's at all these conferences all over the world doing a bunch of different stuff, also building on Nostr. So yeah, this stuff is real, and this is how you actually get in the game.
Yeah, so take a risk. I mean, if you're interested in putting in the work, it's fully online, it's free, it's async, so you can do it at your own schedule. But of course, you need to keep up with it, because if you do put in the work, alumni have gotten funded from organizations like Spiral, OpenSats, Brink, Maelstrom, Btrust, Blockstream, and the BDK Foundation. So it's just proof is in the pudding, and it shows that this works. You can contribute to things like Bitcoin Core, LDK, PayJoin, Lightning, silent payments. So if you're interested, applications are now open and close on December 31st. So you got 2 days. Go ahead. Go check out the newsletter, bitcoinnews.com. We've got this press release up on the website. You can check it out. Click here to sign up. So anybody with the itch to contribute to Bitcoin, head on over there. And then to round out our adoption arts section, what do we have? We've got the Culture Ministry of Brazil approving a live orchestra performance for charity that converts real-time BTC price action into music with melodies and tempo shifting dynamically based on market data. So, I mean, this is pretty cool in my opinion. We've got this plan to do an orchestra that is just improvising live based off of the Bitcoin price. If they were improvising last night in the middle of the night, they would have seen Bitcoin go up straight up $3,000 and then down $3,000 within a matter of a couple of hours. Some crazy price action, that slam that we're pretty used to whenever it peeps its head above 90K right now. But this is a pretty cool initiative by Brazil's culture ministry. And of course, it is trying to raise money for the arts within Brazil. But yeah, this hasn't happened yet, but would love to see some video when it actually does. This thing seems pretty cool. You got any thoughts on this?
No. I generally thought Brazil was not super open to Bitcoin. So it is interesting that out of the government, the culture ministry, this is coming. But no, we need more Bitcoin art. Right now, the most beautiful thing about Bitcoin is the price, and we need more people doing art and things like this. It's great.
Yeah, the main idea behind the project is an algorithm that tracks Bitcoin market data live. As Bitcoin price goes up or down, the system instantly converts these changes into musical instructions for the orchestra. Instead of playing from a fixed music sheet, the musicians will respond to notes generated from the market data. Melody, rhythm, tempo, and harmony will all change depending on what Bitcoin is doing exactly at that moment. So again, whether you're turning it into visual data or musical or visual, like Kyle over here.
Bitcoin. This made me think. I was on a hike a couple of years ago. I met a guy who was a composer. He goes into nature and sits on the beach or in the mountains. He composes music based on the feel and the energy of the place. So maybe this is something similar.
Nice. Where was that?
Shy Beach, my favorite place in the world. I just doxed my favorite place in the world, but that's what it is. It's a west coast of Washington, up on the coast there, a bunch of beautiful sea stacks and rocks and magical sunsets.
Beautiful. Yeah, you West Coast bros, you're all about that nature. Got to get in the nature. Bitcoin and nature. Bitcoin nature, Bitcoin music. But there's also Bitcoin Trust Wallet problems. What do we got going here in the regulation section over here? Trust Wallet, owned by Binance's Changpeng Zhao, CZ, of course, the Binance owner. It suffered a Chrome extension hack that stole at least $7 million, with Zhao promising full reimbursement and urging users to update immediately. So again, never use a Chrome extension for your Bitcoin or any crypto if you have that, unfortunately. But please never do it. Again, this is the most vulnerable way for you to hold your crypto, your Bitcoin. It is literally tied to the internet. You want your keys not to touch the internet at all. You want to air gap that stuff to make sure it does not get leaked or hacked or anything like this happens. And of course, CZ had his famous line, "Funds are safeu." He doesn't say safe. He says funds are safeu. And he makes sure that everybody knows that he's got the billions to back it up. No matter how pesky these hacks are, he can cover a super simple $7 million hack. Yeah. Did you ever use Trust Wallet?
No, man. I don't use any of these things. These hot wallets on the internet. I mean, for daily spending, fine. But I see these posts on Twitter and it's just I don't know if it's just clickbait or it's actually heartbreaking to see people lose all their savings. People keeping all their savings on a wallet that's connected to the internet. I mean, it's absolutely insane. It's like leaving if you had your gold bars in the safe, you should leave the thing unlocked or leave the key right on top. It's absurd. So yeah, I really don't have too much sympathy for those stories. And I think a lot of them are clickbait anyways, but not your keys, not your coins, man. I think it's the most important thing in Bitcoin.
Absolutely,
Even today.
100%. Yeah. Got to be sovereign. What do you recommend for new people in terms of wallets on their phone, hardware wallets? What's your stack that you recommend to Bitcoiners in your life?
Depends if I'm in the US or out of the US. Oftentimes, it's just get them a Lightning wallet on the phone. Just show them that Bitcoin works. I think that's a bigger needle mover than having them KYC and go through, even though I love Rivers where I buy my Bitcoin typically if I'm not doing it peer-to-peer. But it's like, hey, welcome to Bitcoin. It's freedom money for everybody, peer-to-peer electronic cash. All you need is your ID, your bank account, your social security number, your mother's like maiden name. It's unfortunate. So I'm a big fan of a project called Vexel out of Prague, Czech Republic. They are all about peer-to-peer buying Bitcoin the way that it was intended to be. So that's where I try and push people. But then when you have that conversation with someone who's not involved in the Bitcoin community, it's like, well, who do I buy it from, right? You can use things like Bisq and a couple others. But yeah, I recommend, I don't know, Aqua Wallet. I've used Speed Wallet. Now we have Wallet of Satoshi. It's a little slower, unfortunately, because they made this change on the back end. They're using Liquid, I believe. So just the transactions take like 5-7 seconds instead of instant, which is, I'm always filming Bitcoin transactions. So it makes it a little unfortunate when that green thing is going slowly up the screen and I'm thinking, well, I'll be editing this later. What else do I recommend? I mean, I use Fold Card, to be honest with you. Like I buy gift cards on Fold and I get free sats back. That's fun. Yeah, I think non-KYC when you just get started. But when people do want to start acquiring Bitcoin, of course, the KYC I think is eventually not going to be a problem. But just in that edge case where the government does become very tyrannical, all your Bitcoin's KYC'd, Bitcoin gives you optionality and you want to exercise as much of that as possible. So I think it's fine to get into Bitcoin that way. But I also think I did a podcast with Gabe from the hardware store on this. And I asked him, like, at what point in the Bitcoin journey do you take self-custody? Like, is it when you have X amount of Bitcoin? Or he basically said, start from day one. Just start to do that process. It takes time. For me, I realized that I had to run my own node if I wanted to transact with the Bitcoin blockchain completely privately. So that was important for me personally. But yeah, no, I don't know. There's so many good products out there. What am I missing? Blink Wallet. I use a bunch of them. I probably have 8 Bitcoin wallets on my phone, Lightning wallets.
Yeah, 8 at least. But Vexel, you worked with them, right? I mean, is that an app or is it just a site?
Yeah, it's an app and it's not available in the US due to Apple and their restrictions. But yeah, you connect with your friends and friends of friends through phone number. So it's the circle of trust that you have with the most people. And you just meet up or just, hey, is Joe cool to do a Bitcoin transaction with? Cool. Yeah, he's great. You have somebody to verify that they're going to be a good person to transact with. And yeah, so if you're outside the US, definitely check it out. Canada, it's growing. I know Argentina, Latin America, I believe Brazil maybe, but yeah, it's really cool, super easy. And they're doing a bunch of new stuff. It's not a business. It's it was charity, not charity, but it's a foundation, a non-for-profit. That's what it is. And so they are true believers in the Bitcoin mission. I think they need more signal. They make great content too.
Interesting. No, cool. Good for them. And I do think that is probably going to be the way that a lot of new social apps moving forward is the rings of trust, right? Friends of friends, people that you know, extending your network that way, because we're just going to be flooded with so much AI garbage and scam attacks that the only way you're going to really be able to trust anything is if another person can vouch for it, someone that you know in real life. So interesting. It's good. It's cool that they're getting a head start on all that. And continuing on in the regulation section, we've got IMF praises El Salvador's robust 4% growth driven by investment and remittances, but remains cautious over Bitcoin risks while seeking transparency as negotiations for the Chivo e-wallet sale advance. So IMF came out praising El Salvador, saying you guys have got it going on economically. 4% economic growth, GDP growth is nothing to snub. This is pretty impressive. As you can see here, real GDP growth is projected to reach around 4% this year, with very good prospects for next year. Recent economic data backs up this assessment. El Salvador's economy grew 5.1% in the third quarter, and 2.4 and 4.1% in the first two quarters. This growth has been supported by better security conditions, a stronger financial system, and rising public and private investment, especially in construction projects. Remittances continue to play a key role in El Salvador's economy. Money sent home by Salvadorans abroad makes up nearly 1/4 of the country's GDP. Record inflows have helped families spend more, improved confidence in the economy, and supported financial stability. So, Kyle, I know that you are a big El Salvador guy. You've been there numerous times. What was the latest time you were there, and what was the vibe?
Yeah, it was exactly what that article is saying. Definitely. I saw firsthand. There's so much development happening. I've been there 3 times over the last 2 years. I mentioned the halving party. Just this last November, I was there. And it is, I would say, of the 3 visits, it's the first time where I'm like, wow, there's something really happening here. Just boots on the ground. You know, I got to spend a little bit of time after the conference exploring the country, and obviously it's got a long ways to go. It's El Salvador, but if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would definitely bet on Latin America being a massive opportunity for growth in the next, call it 5 to 10 years. These projects take a long, long time. Bukele took power 7 years ago. When you go there and talk to people, the number one thing you hear just across the board is we're safe. We can walk at night. Our kids can go outside. These are foundations for society evolving, and I'm very bullish on El Salvador. At the same time, you never trust a politician. They all disappoint. And this whole thing with the IMF, I've been following John Dennehy, big fan of him, and Me Premier Bitcoin. And, you know, he's a very respectable guy and it's not going to like necessarily put the dirty laundry outside, but kind of reading between the lines, it seems like they're not as invested in Bitcoin education, getting into the schools. They say they are. They just did this new, what do they call it? Bitcoin Historico event. And I think we got to be very careful when we place trust in politicians, especially when they have deals with the IMF. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that was a big story of 2025 was this deal that they took on early in February. They finally inked it. And a big stipulation of this deal was to take on a couple $1 billion worth of loans from the IMF to cover their debt, is that they do not buy Bitcoin with public funds anymore. However, that has been contradicted by daily postings from the Bitcoin office, from Bukele, that, yeah, they still are adding to that strategic reserve. So the question is, what is going on here? I think El Salvador has a great marketing department. They've got a lot of Bitcoiners that have moved there from around the world that are very rah-rah, pro-Bitcoin, pro-El Salvador. And so it's very hard for them to ever say anything bad about the country. But there clearly is something going on where, I mean, they are going to sell the Chivo wallet program, right? I don't think the Chivo wallet was ever really well executed. It was a way for them to airdrop $30 worth of Bitcoin to every citizen when the Bitcoin law was first adopted, but that also invited a whole lot of fraud, right? And a bunch of people pretending to be others and using dead people's names to get Bitcoin from that. And so, yeah, how are they still accumulating Bitcoin if the IMF doesn't allow them to? Big question, but it is undoubtedly true that the economy is growing, right? The cranes are everywhere. The infrastructure is becoming top notch. Roads are being paved. Bitcoin Beach is going from cobble roads to nice paved roads. And it really is just a general feel of excitement. And when an economy is booming, especially in a country that has been so held back for so many years, it really is something special to witness firsthand. Highly recommend going to Bitcoin country, El Salvador, if you haven't been yet.
Yeah, the other thing I'll add too is that almost all of the notable Bitcoin adoption is grassroots, to your point, right? Chivo failed. They gave everybody $30. What did the Salvadorans do? They had no Bitcoin education. They didn't know what this thing was. They actually thought it was like Bukele created Bitcoin. A lot of Salvadorans thought Bukele was Satoshi. So they went to get their $30 of Bitcoin, and what did they do? They immediately sold it. And if they didn't sell it, that was at the top of the last cycle, then they saw that $30 become 20, become 15. So the government rollout did not work well. The grassroots is growing for sure. It's not like everywhere you're going to go, Bitcoin is everywhere, but it's definitely happening. And the other thing is very bright minds, a lot of entrepreneurs. I see it as the people who want to be the Lewis and Clark, not to that level, right? But the pioneers. Those are the pioneers are moving to El Salvador, and unfortunately, yeah, the government, even to your point about their marketing team, we're not hearing too much in terms of detail from their marketing team. I'd like to hear from the horse's mouth what's happening, but yeah, their Bitcoin office has been dead silent on the most critical issues that we all want to hear about.
Yeah, it's but it continues. There's still Bitcoin education. I mean, Premier Bitcoin is no longer focused on El Salvador. They're more of a global organization now, and John is leaving El Salvador. He's moving back to America. So some changes there, but I do think that the future is bright. It seems as if Trump really likes El Salvador, really likes Bukele. And as we said in the intro, America is super focused on North, Central, and South America now. It's the new Monroe Doctrine. We said that, okay, you guys can have this piece and that piece. We want to focus on our neck of the woods, and we want to make sure that these resources, we have access to them. El Salvador, in many ways, it's a small country, right? But it is, it could turn into somewhat of a Singapore of the Americas with its unique location, its focus on tech, Bitcoin, and its close relationship with the United States. So always interesting geopolitics when it comes to Bitcoin and America. Up next, we got the news of the weekend. Last week, silver hit a new all-time high of $79 per ounce. After this week's parabolic move, Bitcoin has erased all gains versus silver since 2017, pushing the silver implied Bitcoin power law trend price to roughly $394,000. What is going on here? I mean, we saw it here. Like, we were making quite the headway. It was over 3,200 ounces of silver for one Bitcoin earlier this year when we were hitting all-time highs above 100K. But since silver has gone on just this epic run up over 160% this year alone, that has crashed down. And we are at the same levels that we were in terms of silver price for Bitcoin as we were back at the peak in 2017. Wild stuff going on here. You said that you had a silver story. Somebody gave you silver for some Bitcoin earlier this year. What happened there?
Yeah, it wasn't the best trade for me, I'll tell you that. But a friend of mine needed some Bitcoin. He said he had silver. He gave me some coins, right? And so I'm sitting on these coins. They're in my safe, and day after day, I'm just thinking like, okay, when am I going to go pawn these things off? So yeah, I went to the silver, gold, whatever store and sold them for $32 an ounce, and yeah, now $71 an ounce. So. Good thing is that I denominate in Bitcoin. And so when I made that trade, what did I do with that money? I bought Bitcoin. And so in the short term, yeah, maybe it didn't work out that great. But when in doubt, zoom out, Rob, right? Look at the Bitcoin price and look at the silver price over a longer time period. And I'm not even sure why there's even any discussion about this. Yes, silver is a signal, and the most recent run is maybe something that we should be paying attention to. I do think there's information to be gathered, but as an individual, if you haven't bought silver at this point, you are so late to the game. Like I mentioned earlier, 2011, like if you bought it in 2011, by the way, at the all-time high when it was super exciting to buy Bitcoin or silver in 2011, you purchased it at $46. So today the price is $71. That's not even a 2x since 2011. Like, any of these people online talking about how great gold and silver have done this year, yes, but over the long time horizon, they're trending very quickly towards zero in Bitcoin terms. So as far as the individual today, I just think there's a lot of noise out there, but now's the time to sell your silver and get some Bitcoin. Not financial advice, but that's what I did earlier this year.
There you go. I mean, funny enough, as we said, we got sort of Austrian pilled, hard money pilled back in 2011 or so. And I picked up some silver. And I first bought a little bit of silver when it was like $14 an ounce, right? And then it ran up to that $49, $50 mark in 2011. Still remember it. That was like the week that we got Osama bin Laden, like, but I was super thinking that we were about to have hyperinflation like around the corner, that like
I
the money
thought so too.
printing from the TARP bailouts and everything would just destroy the dollar. That's not exactly what happened. That was my first experience with real, like, sort of a mania feeling in terms of a price action of a certain asset, where Bitcoin, silver was just running up from $14 to $50. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is the end of the dollar system. This thing's going to run forever. And then it crashed back down to $14 and stayed there for like a decade. So yeah, I mean, these commodities, they do tend to run up and then crash back down, as we've seen with silver. But silver is it's an important metal, right, in terms of industrial uses, in EVs, electric vehicles, batteries, cell phones, computers, satellites, even medical uses too. So there's an industrial use and an old monetary use. We'll see if, I mean, I think India is focused on the monetary use of silver these days. But I mean, one interesting chart, I mean, back in last year, this time last year, maybe a little bit earlier, when Bitcoin was at the same price, $87,000, Bitcoin overtook silver for the first time at a market cap of 1.75 trillion or so. And now it's up here. And so many people say that Bitcoin can't run like it used to because it's in the trillions of dollars now. But no, I mean, we just saw silver go from a $1.7 trillion asset to a $4.4 trillion asset. So these things can run when there is a need, and there is a need now for hard money. Still think Bitcoin's best days are ahead of it, in the sense of how it will be adopted as a world reserve currency. And so we're still early. Bitcoins can still run. There's still an easy 10x with Bitcoin. And as we saw with silver and gold this year, adding trillions of dollars to market caps of a hard money in a world awash with fiat is certainly possible.
Yeah, I mean, so this podcast got me to go do a little bit of research on silver, and less than 25% of silver demand is from investment. Most of it, to your point, is industrial, and silver's had a multi-year supply deficit. So, like we've seen with the Bitcoin ETFs, there's been just structurally more demand than there is supply. And I think that's going to continue, right? These companies, they need more and more of these precious metals. We're seeing rare earth minerals start to be a thing. These things that are in the public now that were not just a few years ago, especially moving towards the digital age. Silver is going to be critical for the components of the future. Yes. And my understanding is that silver usually exists in the crust of the earth. I don't really know if this is true, so maybe I'm wrong. Whereas gold, you can keep mining deeper and deeper and deeper. Silver, we've kind of exhausted a lot of the crust is easier to mine. So that's my understanding, is why silver supply is not as easy to increase. And these buyers are inelastic, right? These buyers of, if you're making cars, if you're making products, you need the things to make that product. Otherwise, your business dies. So they don't care if the price is 71 or 50. I mean, they care because they're paying more. It means their bottom line is going up, right? But yeah, it's not like investment demand is driving this. And I actually think the biggest thing here is the geopolitical China angle, because China's limiting or adding tariffs on their exports starting in 2 days. And so, yeah, we're seeing a lot of movement in the markets going into 2026. I'm here for it.
Yeah, man. No, complete export ban from China starting in 2 days. They are a top 2 gold or silver refiner in the world. I believe Mexico's number 1, they're number 2. But their mining is declining, and it has for the last 3 or 4 years now. So as you said, they need it. They have this huge solar panel industry, huge electric vehicle industry that they've put a lot of their energy in, trying to revamp their economy, be at the forefront of technology. And so for this critical component to become 3 times as expensive as it was just a year or 2 ago, it throws a big wrench in their system. And what they're really looking to do here is, I think that they're hoarding. I think both America and China are hoarding for a possible conflict or an escalated trade war. They're the 2 big boys at the table, and they are going to eat the lunch of their their vassals, whether that be Europe or Latin America. That's just the realpolitik world that we're living in. It's no longer free trade, helps everybody. It's more of a mercantilist system where you need to ensure that you have the access to these resources and that you have industry on your shores in order to make use of it. Crazy times. Do you think that we're going to have a conflict with China in the coming years?
I don't. I don't. I think we do too much business with them, ultimately. The thing in Venezuela right now is in the news, and I just find it, just as someone who's been anti-war, vehemently anti-war and pro-freedom for a very long time, it's just a shame that we don't learn from our mistakes, right? 22 years of unnecessary war on terror in the Middle East with zero positive outcome. And now we're taking that same Middle East policy and moving it to Latin America. It makes, to me, zero sense. And I think it's going to backfire. I think it's just a symptom of the dying system. The current Trump administration, they've clearly articulated that they understand the position that they're in. They know the system is dying. They're doing everything to bolster the dollar, to bolster the United States into the future, right? And in my opinion, Bitcoin is the only solution for that. And we're going to talk here a little bit about some of that nation state mining stuff, but it's, yeah, I don't know. The geopolitical side is a little outside my wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's again, growing up in that 2011 era, I mean, big anti-war too, right? Ron Paul, no war here, man. That's not our business. We don't like it, but
it doesn't benefit anyone. It only benefits the people that sell the weapons and the bankers, right? So how there's any like public support for it, to me, is just, it's crazy. But fear and this whole thing, war on drugs, it's the same thing. It's the same exact, there's this meme, right? It's like war on drugs versus war on terror. I could pull it up. It's one of my favorite memes. And it's the same thing. We target people, we steal their stuff, you know, it never works out. And then we print more money to do more of it. It's an unfortunate cycle.
It's not a great situation. And I think this whole entire situation with Venezuela leaves a lot of people scratching their heads. They're like, what? Like, we had never even mentioned any of this, you know, in the campaign. Or Trump was supposed to be the anti-war candidate, right? He's the guy who didn't start any wars while he was president compared to all the other former presidents in the 21st century. And so we hoped that he would continue that streak, but it doesn't. It seems like the fiat system is too wobbly for the largest army in the world not to try to assert itself and ensure its power. So crazy things happening around the world, but we're here to cover it, give you some insights, and give you a good jumping off point to dive in deeper. And somebody who's also at the other end of this whole entire silver trade is none other than JP Morgan. They were historically short silver, as we said at the top of the show. Buy silver, crash JP Morgan is the old Max Kaiser slogan. And they've been short, but it seems that they flipped long. They've gone from $250 million short to $500 million long silver. And now we've got them not only playing games in the precious metals market, but also looking to get into Bitcoin. JP Morgan is weighing spot and derivatives Bitcoin trading for institutional clients, citing rising demand from hedge funds and asset managers in a more favorable U.S. regulatory environment. What do you think about this? JP Morgan has bent the knee to Bitcoin. Is Jamie Dimon a hodler himself?
Well, what's happening here, in my opinion, Rob, is they're seeing a way that they can make money, right? That's why the ETFs were approved. Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss actually were the first ones to put in an ETF proposal, I believe in 2013, 2014. Why did it not get approved, Rob? Because BlackRock had to do it. Mm-hmm. BlackRock had to be the one. And JP Morgan, yeah, everyone bends the knee to Bitcoin eventually. But what I'm more concerned about is the longer term trend of centralization, especially if we outsource our ownership of Bitcoin. Can Bitcoin fail as its, the mission to free humanity from fiat slavery forever? Is there a risk of these massive institutions being the custodians for so many people that we actually don't get to exercise many of the properties and the rights or the the things that Bitcoin allows us to do, right? To be able to control our own wealth. So I just think now is the most important time, especially in the last year of the bull market. So much hype and mania, new entrants, many people coming to Bitcoin are not taking self-custody, right? And many Bitcoiners, they think they're Bitcoiners. They don't have their own keys. So the message is definitely clear. If you want to support Jamie Dimon, go buy his products. If you want to support Larry Fink, go buy his products. If you want to support yourself and the future generations of your bloodline, then stack sats and self-custody. Let's go.
100%. Bitcoin needs to be used and taken custody of in order for it to ensure the censorship resistant aspects of it. Use your Bitcoin, but also at the same time, this was sort of inevitable, right? If Bitcoin is to grow to be a world reserve asset, the big banks are going to get involved. Things like hedge funds don't necessarily want to hold their own keys. They want to be able to trade the product itself. So there's a give and take here, but is it on a personal level? Of course, we always advise buy Bitcoin, take it into self-custody, and be a sovereign pleb. And if you're going to be buying Bitcoin yourself, we recommend you check it out over at Rhino. Very thankful for Rhino to be the sponsor of the show. And why is Rhino so good? Well, because in the past, getting access to Bitcoin financial services was hard. It was slow. It was clunky. It was scattered across multiple platforms, each with its own limitations. But Rhino is changing that. Rhino is a next generation Bitcoin banking app designed to handle all of your Bitcoin needs in one place. Of course, you can buy Bitcoin on Rhino with some of the lowest fees anywhere, meaning more sats for every dollar you spend. Make Lightning payments on the Lightning network. Send it instantly with zero fees. You can also send cash. You can send cash fiat over Lightning rails, so it goes to any country in the world. The other person will receive that fiat, but it's sent over Bitcoin rails. And of course, you can DCA, set up automatic savings so you can stack sats on your schedule and build wealth over time. This is just the beginning. Soon with Rhino, you'll be able to pay bills, direct deposit straight into the app so your paycheck turns into Bitcoin automatically, borrow against your Bitcoin, and even save for retirement, all seamlessly inside the app. And of course, they got top-notch security, biometric verification, 24/7 fraud protection, and the confidence of knowing your Bitcoin is never, ever rehypothecated. And for long-term hodlers, of course, you can withdraw your Bitcoin to cold storage, or if you have a multi-sig setup with Casa, you can use your Rhino app as one of the keys for your multi-sig setup. So go today to rhinobitcoin.com, tap the link, and download it. And of course, it's right down below in the YouTube description here. And if you use the code Bitcoin News, one word, Bitcoin News, Rhino will drop $10 of free Bitcoin into your account just to get you started. And Rhino is built to keep you in control of your Bitcoin every minute of the day. Big shout out to our sponsor, Rhino. Fans of them, great team. If you have any questions, reach out to them on X, DM them. They're more than happy to answer any questions you got. Definitely check out the app. And so now we got back to Kyle. Kyle, big news I want to cover with you is this news with mining, nation state mining. Putin says that Bitcoin mining has surfaced in talks tied to Donald Trump's Ukraine peace proposal, with reports a potential U.S. stake in the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant could be used to mine Bitcoin. What is going on here? Putin, Russia, Trump, America, Ukraine, peace deals, and Bitcoin mining in the middle of it. Pretty wild stuff.
It is.
So this is I think the largest nuclear power plant in all of the former Soviet Union, located in Ukraine. Ukraine, of course, also the home of the famous Chernobyl nuclear power plant that melted down back in the 80s. Well, this was a big deal during this special military operation of Russia going into Ukraine. There's this nuclear power plant right in the middle of the front lines, right? So Russia has taken control of it. Since then, they have powered down all 6 reactors since 2022. And now they're trying to hash out what happens to this nuclear power plant if there is a peace deal. And Putin goes to the state media in Russia and says that Trump wants America to have a stake in this power plant in order to ensure that it is maintained safe and, I guess, not used for nuclear weapons or anything like that. And in doing so, they want to use some electricity to mine Bitcoin. From the Kiev Post, the United States is discussing the possibility of jointly managing the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant without Ukraine's involvement. He claimed the U.S. is interested in using the plant for cryptocurrency mining. Crazy stuff. What's your take on this?
Yeah, this is absolutely wild. There's a number of different things here. The first thing I would say is that governments are like aircraft carriers. They take a long time to shift. So when we see the news come out that this is even being discussed, if it happens or not, it's kind of beside the point. The fact that we're seeing nations that are on paper enemies, or we're fighting a proxy war against Russia, now talking about a collaborative effort with Bitcoin mining and nuclear mining specifically. This isn't, harnessing wasted energy at some, flaring location. This is a major facility, and it opens the discussion. I think that it moves the Overton window for one. Now, other nation states can do deals like this. And I do think that there is something game theory wise between, if the US had a stake in this, we are incentivized financially to maintain the security of this place. So is this something that we see more nation states doing, these types of deals? Hey, we have the energy, you have the capital, let's put some miners here and let's make it happen. I don't know. I think it's very bullish. And I think as far as the next level of Bitcoin adoption goes, I don't personally think the strategic reserve is as important as nation state mining. I just did a podcast with Bob Burnett. I'm a big fan of Bob, Barefoot Mining. And he articulates this really well, how actually Bitcoin itself is very scarce, obviously. But the access to block space is even more scarce. So if a nation in the future, and once you start to wrap your head around this, you realize how important Bitcoin is at the core of the future digital economy and just global economy in general. You need access to that block space if you want to be a sovereign nation. Otherwise, you need to call another sovereign nation that does have access to put transactions into the blocks. So nation states are going to be mining. It's just a matter of time. Bob thinks in the next 5 to 8 years, we're looking at 20 to 30 nation states mining Bitcoin, not just as like, hey, let's make some money on the subsidy, but no, we actually see block space itself as a strategic asset. So it's a very, very interesting story, Rob.
Yeah, from the article, before the war, Zaporizhzhia produced far more electricity than nearby areas needed. Reports say it generated around 136.8 gigawatt hours of electricity per day. That's a lot of energy, creating a large surplus. Bitcoin mining needs a constant and powerful supply of electricity. Nuclear power is well suited for this because it produces energy constantly. Putin suggested that mining could be a practical way to use excess electricity that would otherwise go to waste. Putin's talking about mining. Trump's talking about mining. And you're right. If you are a nation state and you want to ensure that your transactions go through on the neutral reserve layer, this most powerful financial tool that we have here with Bitcoin, you need to have mining in your jurisdiction, right? You need to be able to say, hey, we want this transaction to go through on this next block. We don't want to wait or have to be at the discretion of somebody else who does have the hash rate to find a block and get these transactions in there. And so, yeah, I mean, as they say, Bitcoin is for enemies, right? It's permissionless. Anybody who can plug into the internet can get onto the Bitcoin network, and you can mine, you can transact, you can send. It's really wild. Exciting times. I think it's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to be playing a larger and larger role in geopolitics, as we were seeing right here.
Yeah, the other thing that this got me thinking is like, why are we fighting this war against Ukraine, or with Ukraine against Russia? Was this entire thing just a fraud? Like, now all of a sudden we're doing a deal with Putin? Like, I thought this was the Hitler of our time, right? So it just kind of, to me, it almost exposes the game for what it is. At the end of the day, it's the money machine, it's the war machine, the military industrial complex doing what it does. And I think Bitcoin, specifically around Jason Lowery's thesis, Bitcoin is going to make the world more peaceful, right? We are going to defund the criminals. Instead of being able to fund wars, they're going to have to do Bitcoin mining with Putin. So it's a beautiful thing. Crazy. crazy times. And the other thing I'll say is I'm not worried about nation state mining becoming a long-term problem. Like, it actually decentralizes the network. And Bob articulates this in the podcast. He's like, we want nation states to mine, because let's say 30 nation states are mining Bitcoin. That's quite decentralized. Like, right now, the current status of Bitcoin mining is it's very centralized in 70% of the pools, or 70% of the hash rate is with like 2 pools. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest risk to Bitcoin today. And I actually think in some weird way that nation states could come help us decentralize the Bitcoin network.
Figure that.
It's crazy.
The man you just mentioned, Jason Lowery, he popped up on the timeline this week as he accepts a role as special assistant to the commander of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, bringing his thesis that Bitcoin is a matter of strategic power into the center of defense planning. So, I mean, being a special advisor to the man in charge of this region, this hotbed, is something special. Of course, he wrote the book, the thesis, Soft War, saying that Bitcoin is essentially a new domain of combat, that we will need to ensure that we have proper hash rate in order to defend ourselves. And yeah, central thesis in his book is that Bitcoin should be viewed by the U.S. government as a strategic weapon system and a matter of national security, rather than just a financial or monetary innovation. And so this U.S. Indo-Pacific Command is a joint force confronting 4 of the 5 most consequential military threats to the United States. So yeah, he wrote this thesis, then joined Space Force and had to remove the book from Amazon, then went dark on Twitter for a while, and now he seems to have popped back up in announcing this role. But it just goes to show you, I think we've had so many headlines in this show that just point to the fact that Bitcoin is making its way up the food chain and is a topic of discussion for some pretty big head honchos around the world. And so if you're not looking into Bitcoin, studying Bitcoin, you're being left behind. Stay on top of the trend, stay ahead of the curve, educate yourself about Bitcoin, and figure out what is going on in the wider world.
My partner in Bulgaria on the film, Ivan, is a huge fan of Jason Lowery, and he's like, man, you need to go re-listen to a bunch of podcasts. There's a few he did with Pomp that is so good. And something that he said in that podcast clicked with me to some degree. He said, look, if you want to let's say you want to destroy a nation's nuclear facilities, you can bomb that nuclear facility, right? Maybe it takes them a year to rebuild it, but they could rebuild it. You could bomb maybe 12 or 20 of them, or however many they have. It's doable to take down a nation's entire nuclear or energy infrastructure. If you want to stop Bitcoin mining, you have to bomb or destroy in some way, take offline 17 to 20,000 nodes all around the world. And as you do it, all the financial cost of doing that, but also just the energy itself, it will never end because more nodes start to pop up. So you need to basically continuously bomb every single Bitcoin node in the entire world indefinitely, which is impossible, right? So that's kind of got me to think about how Bitcoin is. I don't see it as much as he does as a weapon system, more as like a defense network. But no, his commentary on that got me thinking about how I need to have more Bitcoin, right? It's like, I need more protection, not less.
Yeah, that was one of the points that got me really convinced of Bitcoin, was the fact that of these 20,000, 30,000 nodes around the world, you would need to destroy every single one in order for Bitcoin to die, right? And as long as there's just one node with the full and complete ledger on it, you can restart the system at any point and boom, everybody still has their allocation of Bitcoin. The ledger is completely valid and you can start anew if you just have one. So this thing is unstoppable. It is a mind virus that has taken over the world in the best way imaginable. Kyle, here we are at the end of our hour together. Thank you so much for joining us. If people want to find more about you, your work, the film, where should they go?
Yeah, my website, kylehuber.com, got a bunch of links on it. YouTube channel, We Are Satoshi. I'm on Twitter, the Kyle Huber, THE Kyle Huber. And just looking forward to seeing more tuning in as a listener to these episodes in the future, Rob. I always get a ton of value from you and appreciate everything you do in the Bitcoin community. You guys are extremely high signal, down to earth Bitcoiners, and also giving us the newest up-to-date news. So appreciate you very much.
Cheers. Thank you for that. Yeah. And everybody who's watching, if you could hit that like button, reshare this video would help a lot. Subscribe if you haven't already, and also sign up for the newsletter, Bitcoin News Weekly, which gets sent to your inbox every Monday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern. All the headlines, everything we discuss on the show comes from the newsletter. Stay up to date. And it's a great thing to share with your family and friends who are new to Bitcoin, who need to get freshened up on everything that's happening around the world, and just be aware that, wow, Bitcoin touches so many different aspects of life, the economy, and what's going on.
Let me say one more thing. You never know what's going to click with somebody. Send them an article about this mining in Ukraine. Like, that could be the unlock for somebody that you've been trying to preach Bitcoin to for so long. For me, with my girlfriend, it was the petrodollar not being renewed. She's like, oh my goodness, the petrodollar is not being renewed. Yes, the fiat system is dying. Yes, the dollar is dying. So you never know what that unlock is going to be. And when you're up to date and you're seeing it live, I think your guys' resources are great things to send people. So
boom. Cheers, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back here 11 a.m. Eastern next Monday with a new guest for Bitcoin News Weekly Live. Thank you so much. Until next time, ciao.